Ginger Star. Welcome to another episode of Positive Power.
That one's going to go on for several seasons.
I'm a big fan of anime myself. As a matter of fact, I kind of grew up with the 90s anime.
Oh, acceptance. We haven't even talked about acceptance.
Susan Roman, welcome to the show. How are you?
Listen, can you come to my house and say that every day? Everything you just said was such energy and positivity. I mean, I love it and I want it in my life every minute. You are the best cheerleader on the planet. Hi, Ginger. It's so great to see you and be here. This is fantastic. And look at what you've done. Look at this professional intro. My goodness. Wow. You are really impressive to watch. I don't think I did watch the podcast that you did with Terry, but I was having a little bit of a hard time getting rid of some things on YouTube. You know, the way sometimes you try to fast forward. So I missed your opening in that podcast. And so this is the first time I'm seeing you do it. And it's great. It's wonderful. Well done, you. Excellent.
Oh my goodness. That is such a huge compliment to hear from someone who is as talented as you are, in the entertainment industry. I am kind of curious, where did you get your fundamental training for acting? Were there acting schools that maybe you took as a child, or did you have to kind of learn as you went along?
Well, I did go. It was my great dream all through childhood. You know, I was in school plays and that sort of thing. But I knew that I wanted to go to theater school when I graduated from high school, and that's what I did. So I auditioned for the largest theater school in Canada, which is called the National Theatre School, and the first year I was put on a short list as opposed to being accepted. And that was very, very sad and upsetting because my best friend was accepted. It's not that I thought I was any great shakes. It was that she and I had this dream of going together. When you're on a short list, it means if one of the 15 people that they've chosen can't make it, you could take their place. And that never happens, forget it. So then I went to another theater school, an up and coming theater school that didn't have the same kind of fame that the National Theater School had. And then I auditioned the second year, and that year I was accepted. Meanwhile, my best friend had quit the National Theater School. So it was just not meant to be. Anyway, I decided that I wasn't going to go to the National Theater School. I was going to stay where I was because it turned out that they wouldn't let you work while you were going to school. And I was already starting to audition for TV projects, and I had actually gotten a role in a project while I was at theater school. So I did not go to the National Theater School. And putting that envelope in the mail that said, no, I will not be attending, was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. I mean, I was crying. But I said, no, I like because the school that I went to, which was called the Dome Theatre, which was a subsidiary of Dawson College in Montreal, I loved the people. It was kind of more outside the box. It wasn't so formal as the National Theatre School. Not at all. It was a little more loosey-goosey. And I really liked it. And I loved the people. And I loved what we were doing and what I was learning. But still, when you have a dream that goes on your entire life, I mean, every step of the way, from the time I was 6 years old, I am going to theater school. Not because I want to be a movie star or a voice actor, but because I want to be an actress on the stage. That was my dream. It all worked out because I actually was able to graduate from theater school a year earlier because I had already had 1 year under my belt at the Dome Theatre. And I ended up working with people who would have been in my class at NTS. So it all works out in the wash. You almost learn more from your disappointments than you do from your successes, because you have to learn how to incorporate that in your life. When you audition for something that you really want and you don't get it, it's very hard to be positive. Trust me. So what you have to do is learn to accept it and learn to incorporate it into your life and realize, at that point I was 18. God, so young, that there's always tomorrow. Maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe there's some sort of interesting thing that's going to happen instead of taking, because you always have all these paths that you could take. So, yeah, it turned out to be good. It turned out to be good. I mean, what a long, we're going to be here till Christmas if I keep giving you answers like this. All right, that's it. That's how I got into acting, theater school. And then I went and I got an agent. And because voice work didn't come along till much, much later. I was doing quite a lot of theater, and because I had gone to theater school to be a theatrical actress. That was my ambition. But then I started moving into television. When you get an agent, your agent sends you on audition. You have a theatrical agent, you have a TV agent. At that point, I didn't have a voice agent. And I would just get sent on auditions, and some of them I would get, and some of them I wouldn't. And one day, I think many years later, like maybe from the time I first joined the agency, maybe 6 or 7 years because I did a lot of on camera in those days. And she phoned me one day and she said, "Are you interested in doing voice work? You have a nice voice." And I said, "Oh, thank you. Sure, why not?" And so she said, "Well, I have an audition for an animated television series. I think it was Strawberry Shortcake." And I said, "Oh, that's sure. Sounds great." I mean, I didn't know anything about it because I was past watching cartoons on Saturday morning, which is the only time at that point in life that you could ever watch cartoons. I was usually sleeping in. So I went to that audition, and they hired me. They cast me. I think it was Crepe Suzette. Yeah, that seems familiar. And there was another. Anyway, it was so much fun. I said, oh. So I phoned my agent and I said, anytime auditions like that come along, I'm in. I'd love to keep auditioning for this kind of work. I said, I love it because it reminds me of theater school, because it's playing, if that makes any sense. When you're at theater school, you're playing a part. Whereas if you are doing a lot of film and television, you're more or less being yourself. It all worked out because I actually was able to graduate from theater school a year earlier than, because I had already had 1 year under my belt at the Dome Theater. And I ended up working with people who would have been in my class at NTS. So it all works out in the wash. You almost learn more from your disappointments than you do from your successes, because you have to learn how to incorporate that in your life. When you audition for something that you really want and you don't get it, it's very hard to be positive. Trust me. So what you have to do is learn to accept it and learn to incorporate it into your life and realize, at that point I was 18. God, so young, that there's always tomorrow. Maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe there's some sort of interesting thing that's going to happen instead of taking, because you always have all these paths that you could take. So, yeah, it turned out to be good. It turned out to be good. I mean, what a long, we're going to be here till Christmas if I keep giving you answers like this. All right, that's it. That's how I got into acting, theater school. And then I went and I got an agent. And because voice work didn't come along till much, much later. I was doing quite a lot of theater. And because had gone to theater school to be a theatrical actress, that was my ambition. But then I started moving into television. When you get an agent, your agent sends you on audition. You have a theatrical agent, you have a TV agent. At that point, I didn't have a voice agent. And I would just get sent on auditions, and some of them I would get, and some of them I wouldn't. And one day, I think many years later, like maybe from the time I first joined the agency, maybe 6 or 7 years because I did a lot of on camera in those days. And she phoned me one day and she said, "Are you interested in doing voice work? You have a nice voice." I said, "Oh, thank you. Sure, why not?" And so she said, "Well, I have an audition for an animated television series. I think it was Strawberry Shortcake." And I said, "Oh, that's sure, sounds great." I mean, I didn't know anything about it because I was past watching cartoons on Saturday morning, which is the only time at that point in life that you could ever watch cartoons. I was usually sleeping in. So I went to that audition, and they hired me. They cast me. I think it was Crepe Suzette. Yeah, that seems familiar. And there was another. Anyway, it was so much fun. I said, oh. So I phoned my agent and I said, anytime auditions like that come along, I'm in. I'd love to keep auditioning for this kind of work. I said, I love it because it reminds me of theater school because it's playing, if that makes any sense. When you're at theater school, you're playing a part. Whereas if you are doing a lot of film and television, you're more or less being yourself most of the time. And if they have categories, and at that point I was a young girl next door, and there's not a lot of acting. It doesn't take a lot of work and concentration if that just happens to be the way you are naturally. Whereas when you and I'm not saying that I was the most beautiful young girl next door. It was just I was what I was, and all I had to do was read the lines and perk them up a little bit. "Oh, hi, Joe. How are you? Yeah, I'm new to the neighborhood. It's great here. Gee, hope to see you sometime." Whatever. It didn't require a lot of intensity on my part. Any digging down. When I started doing animation, I realized that I had way more latitude and more opportunity to be creative, because they would say, "So here's such and such a part. We want somebody who's got a really interesting voice that's not typical, that sounds maybe a little evil, but not too evil. Maybe they're from another country, and here's the line drawing of the character." And then you would look at the line drawing, and it would just be like a cell drawing, but no colors, just lines, like in pencil. And you look at the character, and you'd think, You'd look at the nose, you'd look at the jaw, you'd think, how would that face make a sound, and what would it sound like based on those qualities of the face? So it was so much fun. It was like being a kid again. And the more I did, the more I started to explore what I could do. And then one day, a director came up to me, and he had come in from LA to direct whatever it was that we were doing. It was for Nelvana. I remember that. I don't remember what project. And he came up to me during the break, and he said, "Have you ever thought of voicing little boys?" And I said, "Nope." He said, you've got a little bit of texture in your voice, and if you work on it, I think you could get a really good sound for a little boy. So I said, "Okay, I'll try it." He said, "Yeah, do it, and let me hear." So that actually was right after that. I auditioned for Care Bears and Champ Bear, So I auditioned for all the little girl bears, but because of what he had said, I asked if I could read for Champ Bear, and I got that part, which I loved. And so that was a whole other exploration, you know, trying to isolate what it is that differentiates a female child from a male child so that it doesn't sound like a caricature. Because in those days, they weren't hiring children in animation. Now they do all the time. But in those days, they always got adults to play all the younger characters. So that's no problem to if you're voicing a 6-year-old girl. There are a lot of actresses who have naturally high voices, which I never did. And then were women who had a little bit of texture. And so then it kind of opened up a market for us. And I was really determined to try to make that sound as true to life as possible without making it sound like a caricature. Before that time, I remember when I was growing up and I would hear the forced little boy sound, even when I was a kid, and I would think, ooh, I hate, you know, kids always pick up on stuff that's phony. I think human beings in general pick up on phoniness. They just, our radar, something happens and we go, I don't know about that. So that was always my thing, to try to make everything that I did come from a real place as opposed to an acting place or a big, broad kind of, you have to watch out that it doesn't become so broad that it's almost as if you're in a circus. I love circuses, but every single project has its own energy level. And I would always ask when I would go in to do any animation piece, I would say, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how cartoony do you want this? Do you want like an 11 or do you want a nice 5? And they would say, oh, what a great question. 5 for sure. Or they would just say, oh my, we want a 20. So that means, okay, they want it as big as they want it, almost outrageously large, which is really good for a certain demographic. Certain ages are just going to respond to that beautifully, and then other ages won't respond to it. So then, they'll try to make something or direct all the actors to make it as realistic as possible, which is so it's learning. Oh, there's another thing that I learned. Oh, another thing that I learned. So that answers the first question. I'll make my answer shorter, Ginger, I promise.
That's okay. But I love that because that actually shows that you're an amazing storyteller. I've noticed that a lot of people that I've interviewed, like almost since the beginning, they have all these like long-winded answers to their questions. That's because they're storytellers. They want to tell the story and they want to get it out. So you're doing a great job. I myself was a little bit of a Care Bears fan. That was probably like one of the first shows that I ever watched, like as a young child.
Yeah.
Did you maybe do like one of Champ's lines? Like I know like one of his most famous lines was he always said this word, like, "What's up, sports fans?" Or like, can you do that?
Sure. So here we are at the exercise club. I think that I'm gonna go first. Okay, sports fans, now it's your turn.
So
a lot of pride.
So heat and that level was a bit higher because it was for a younger audience, and there was a lot of music and chaos going on. So the voices just needed a little bit of extra energy so that they could all actually compete with one another and with the sound effects and with the music. Whereas, so other ones, of course, would be much, much gentler. But that one, and that was just, so that's the thing about a little male character, is that from my observation, I noticed that it seemed to me that all the little boy male characters in the playground, as I would go walking by with my dog and I'd hear them at recess, that they seemed to, the energy seemed to come from the front of the mouth. And it was very, very forward. I did it. I got a home run. It's like forwardly placed. And it seemed to me that every time I did that, that was my key phrase. I did it. I got a home run. Dad. That would mean I'm in the zone. That would mean my apparatus that's in here is in exactly the right position to make that sound. And conversely, it seemed, and this is maybe a little bit of an indictment on the society then, the little girl energy was more pulled in and more from the back, more on an inhale. That's a good thing, a good description. So that I heard the little male sound on an exhale and the little girl sound on an inhale. It's pulled in. My mom said I could, so it's more pulled, whereas the little boy's more at the front. So anyway, just that's what's so interesting, is that you're constantly listening. I'm eavesdropping. And sometimes, you walk into a store and you hear this wonderful voice with this kid with a real husky voice, male, female, that wonderful gravelly tone. Just sometimes some kids just have it naturally, and I'm listening and I'm trying to go, okay, where's it coming from? Okay, is it at the front of the mouth or the back of the mouth or the throat, the nose? Where's it coming from? And then they leave. And so then I go, oh well. I can't just go up to somebody and say, would you just talk to me for like 5 minutes so that I can figure out how and why you sound the way you sound? It's interesting. It's just all really interesting.
I remember I had an acting teacher when I was in high school. I wasn't like professional training, but I did take theater in high school. And she said, if you really want to learn how to act, just go and observe people. If you walk into a coffee shop and just, not like eavesdrop per se, but just kind of listen and watch how people are talking in a natural setting. And I was like, that is such great prep work, for an actor.
Of course. Good, smart teacher. And this was at high school, the teacher said that?
Yes.
Fabulous. Yeah, usually they just say stuff like, just learn your lines and make sure your costume fits or something. Like, they're not that in depth. That's terrific that you got that piece of advice, because it's just, I think it's so on the money, spot on.
And I'm glad that you brought up the point about your disappointment, about, not being able to go to the school. Because what I have come to find in listening to you guys, you're amazing, the greatness, I feel like I'm just sitting amongst the greats, like every time I talk to one of you guys. Your actors' professionalism, probably too much hype, but I genuinely mean that. I hope you realize I mean that.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet.
I really do. What I have come to find is it doesn't matter where the source is. If there is something that you want in life, if you try to strive for it, there is always going to be an open door for you to get in there somehow. And so it's always good to, pay attention to the people you're talking to, listen to, the people that are surrounding you. And, especially, if you know someone who's in the industry, listen to them. They might give you some good advice to get you to go. So, but I kind of feel like this is not only an opportunity for me, but for the people who are actually tuning in today, that are actually listening to you and what you're saying. They're getting something meaningful out of it too, especially if they strive to be a voice actor. So, guys, don't give up. Just because one door closes on you, keep going. There might be another door. And that kind of leads to, positivity and, what we're about. So, just keep that door open. Now, I am kind of curious because you mentioned that you had an agent who got you that role in Strawberry Shortcake. And then, it helps you moved on to other roles like Care Bears. Let's get to the one that a lot of fans want us to talk about, Sailor Jupiter. Can you tell us like what your audition process was like for that character?
Yep, I absolutely can. And I just have to make one small, tiny little adjustment. The agent, to what you said, the agent doesn't get you the role. The agent gets you the audition. And you go into the audition, and there are usually 559,000 other people there to audition as well. If you want to be a professional actor, you have got to get it into your head that you're going to lose way more than you're going to win. So you have to just have like my sister said to me once, how on earth can you go into all these auditions and then not go crazy wondering, did I get the part? Oh, was I close? Did I? And I said, because if I did that, I would make myself very miserable. So my philosophy is I go into the audition, I do the very, very best audition I'm capable of. And the minute I walk out that door, it's over. It's over. I literally throw it behind my back and I say, that's it. Sometimes I'll say, did you do the best you could? And I'll say, yeah, I did. Okay, that's it. That's all you can do. Forget it. Some actors start stewing when the minute they walk out. Oh, I should have said it this way. I should have done it this way. I should have done that. Oh, why didn't I do that? Oh, I've got this great German accent. Why didn't I use that? Oh, and they start kind of Monday morning quarterbacking. And it's so hard on your system to do that because there's nothing worse than trying to fix something that you can't fix. You cannot go back and redo your audition. You can't. It's done. So I always would say, okay, so great. And I'd be going home from the audition and my mind would be going, okay, what am I going to do? Maybe I should stop off and I would plan my whole day. And a couple of hours later, I had no clue that I had even done an audition. I was that committed to forgetting. So that if my agent called, this happened a number of times, and my agent would say, guess what? You got the blank blank. And I'd say, what was that again? Because I had put it right out of my mind in order to keep my sanity. That's the way I put it. So when Sailor Moon came along, this was a biggie. I mean, I have never in my life seen so many people coming in to read, because there were all those female parts, that is roles, that was so unusual. That just never happened. So everybody came out because the odds were terrific. All of a sudden there were like 2 male characters that they were reading for and 11 females, because there were a lot of the villains too in that same audition process. So they had the drawings of all the characters in the waiting room, and it was all like a total mess, total chaos. What is this one? What? Like the drawings didn't match the lines, and because there were just so many people, and they were just in and out, in and out, in and out. And they allowed you to choose, I think it was 3 that you could read for 3 separate characters. So of course, what character did everybody read for? Sailor Moon. Of course, everybody wanted to be Sailor Moon, including moi. But I knew that I thought, I'm not right for this. No, my voice is just, no, it should be higher and lighter. But anyway, I read for it. And I also, I read for Jupiter, and I think I also read for, not Mars. I didn't read for Mars. Anyway, I can't remember because the pictures didn't match. I might have even read the wrong lines because none of the lines were matched properly because all the scripts got all messed up. So anyway, again, as usual, I went in, blah, 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 did my thing, and the minute I walked out the door, boop, forget it, it's gone. And so then I think I got a call back. Yep, did get a call back, and then we had to do our audition in front of the Rhythmo Band, which was the way that they dubbed this project. And it's just like karaoke. And there are 8 million lines going across the screen and different colors. So mine was green. So I would just be watching for green lines anyway. Oh my God, there's some green lines. So I'd watch the green line. Meantime, there are all these other lines. It looked like Grand Central Station with all the trains coming in. So that the line comes across like this. And as soon as it hits the Rhythmo Band, I start to talk. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking, I can't do this. There's no way. I can't do this. I don't even understand what she's saying. The producer was French, and she had quite a thick accent, and I didn't really understand what she was saying. So I just wing it, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Green, oh my God, green, here it comes. And then you can't even read it when it's coming because it's too small. You can only read it by the time it gets kind of right in front of you. And then sometimes it speeds up. It's going at a normal pace. Oh, hi, Joe. How are you going? How are you doing? And all of a sudden, how are you doing is like that wide, and hi, Joe is that wide. So it was really hard. And I know a lot of people, really, really, really good voice actors who walked out of that thing in tears. Just going, oh, that was so hard. I couldn't, all those words going across, kept forgetting what color I was, and I was saying the wrong. Yeah, and I felt the same way. Only I didn't. I kind of kept it to myself because by the time I finished, I thought, okay, I think I can get a handle on this. It's not as scary as it looks. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, it took forever. My agent calls and says, well, you didn't get Sailor Moon. Okay, that's disappointing, but they'd like to offer you the role of Sailor Jupiter. And I thought, was she the green one? I couldn't remember. Pardon me. And my agent said, Susan, I don't know. She's the tomboy feisty. I said, yeah, that's the green one. Oh, good. So I was really, really happy. Of course, everybody wanted to be Sailor Moon, but boy, what a responsibility. Yikes, because Sailor Moon had, Serena had so many lines. It was just insane, the verbiage on each episode. And sometimes I would go in and I'd literally have 3 or 4 lines. So a lot of times I would end up doing like 4 or 5 episodes in a row. So they would just put up my section of like episode 48, and I'd have like 2 or 3 scenes, and then they'd take it down. No script. I have no idea what's going on. What's going on here? What is this? Is she happy or sad? So then they would explain it. This was in the beginning with Roland Parliament was the director, and he took a lot of time to explain. He said, okay, you got to understand what's going on. And when I did, then it all sort of fell together. And I thought, God, Serena has 20,000 more lines than I, like this, what a pressurized situation. So that's something that doesn't come up very often. That's somebody, it's like if you're playing King Lear, you've got a lot of responsibility on your shoulders. The rest of all the swordsmen and all the people in the town and whatnot, nobody has anywhere near as many lines as King Lear. And to have to go out in a theater and do that every night for a year, I mean, my hat's off to anybody who can do this. It's quite difficult. So, before, I just want to explain something really, really important. And it's a distinction that a lot of people don't understand, because nowadays, everything, well, has been for the last 15, 20 years, most animation is dubbed. It comes in from another country. So it's already been dubbed. The lip movements are already there. Most importantly, another actor's timing is already in place, and you have to match that timing. This is important to understand because I came from a world of original animation. Everything that I did, and I did a lot, was original animation, meaning it was recorded before it was animated. They animated the project to our voices. So it was an intimate collaboration. There was an artistry involved between the director, the actor, and the animator. And the animator was very often, Canada had this hugely popular and very, very successful animation group of animators who were so talented and known worldwide. And this is old animation where you draw the cell 8 million times in a row. Just it's the work is amazing, and it's just an amazing process. Of course, now it can all be done by computer, but in those days it was hand drawn. And anyway, so I had the freedom. I got the lines, I got the script, I was creating the character, and I was reading it according to my rhythm. So if the line was, "Oh, you look really great today, but I don't love you anymore." "Oh, you look really great today, but I don't love you anymore." You see how much time I took on that? Somebody else from another country is performing the role before me, probably in another language, and they read it as, "Oh, you look really great today, but I don't love you anymore." What? So I have to make my read fit those lip flaps. So I want to read it the way that I read it initially, or something close to that. But the way the dubbing has been done, it's twice as fast as the way I would like to read it. Now you tell me how you figure out how to do that. It's so hard. And people who are good at dubbing don't get anywhere near the regard and the admiration that they should, because it's so much easier to do it from scratch, because you're the captain. I mean, the director might say, "Oh, it's a really nice read, but it's too slow. Make it 50% faster." So, okay, in original animation. But it's still your timing. It's your innate sense of what it is you're trying to say. It's coming from your heart and soul. And when you're dubbing something that's been done by somebody else's heart and soul, you better figure out how to get your head inside what they were doing. And as I say, people who are really good at it, my hat is off to them. And one of the things that I'm really proud of with Sailor Moon, so proud, because I look at it even this many years later, and I say, those were really good actors, because that Rhythmo band was so hard to use, and the lines were so different than the original lines, and they made it work. And there were a lot of stuff was cut out, of course, because it was deemed inappropriate, and was inappropriate for children, and they wouldn't have been able to go on the air if they'd kept some of those scenes in. So they decided, well, we'd rather go on the air and do a little chop than not go on the air at all. So a lot of stuff didn't really make sense, and you're trying to. It was challenging. And then when I look at the end result, I think it's good. It's not just good. It's really good. And I don't think all those fans, the people who grew up running home from school or to watch Sailor Moon, or waking up at 4:00 in the morning so they could watch it before they went to school, it was a fabulous series, yes, but if it had been done by people who were subpar in any way, it wouldn't have been as popular, I don't think. And I think they added the cast added to that. And I mean, look at how big that cast was. It just, I mean, I was just like a drop in the bucket compared to, it just kept growing exponentially. And I thought, oh, look at there's so many people in this show. And geez, I wish I could watch it more, because as I say, I would go in and I would get like 5 minutes of one episode to do my thing, and then maybe 45 seconds in another episode. And we all recorded separately. So I didn't ever see anybody. Sometimes I would record with Katie, I think once or twice, but it was hard enough individually without, she's looking for the red words and I'm looking for the green words, and it's just so nerve wracking. So it was, I never knew, I got to know the people in the show so much better after it was over and we started going to Comic-Cons, and I was like, oh my God, how are you? It was so great to see people you'd worked with but hadn't really ever seen, because the schedules, they were just like passing ships in the night, and it was like boom, 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 boom. Okay, go in, come on. It's late. We got to get you done in time, right? The fact that it turned out as good as it did is one of those wonderful, wonderful miracles. And just having all those female characters, those just delicious female characters, every single one of them. Everybody's going, oh, why don't we get to play characters like that? Up until then, it was always, oh, she's the pretty little girl next door, or she's the librarian, or she's the, like all these stock characters that had no dimensionality, none. And suddenly this project comes along. Everybody was saying, oh, I got an audition for Sailor Moon, and maybe it'll be a recurring part. Because the auditions, the characters kept coming, the auditions kept coming, and everybody in the city knows if you want some good female characterizations and characters, you just tell your agent whatever comes in from auditions from Sailor Moon, I'm on it. Please, whatever, I'm going to do it. I don't care if it's like 3 lines. I want to be part of that project. So it had that going for it too.
I just want to take that moment and just say thank you for actually letting me know like what that process was like. Having to read the lines on the screen and, looking for your character's color, that must have been a real challenge. And I really do believe that the show was graced with so many incredible voice actors. Even for the people that had the smaller roles, it didn't matter if you had the most lines or, if you had like 1 line in the series. Like the show was just so graced and, it was gifted. And I think that that's part of the reason why it did so well, because you could see that that genuine, like it was coming back to us, the fans. It was coming back to the audience. And my mom will sometimes tune in on my podcast. So if you're listening, Mom, I'm sorry for this. But I remember being that little girl at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I remember one time, I think like it was something simple. Like I didn't do well on a test, and when we didn't do well in school, we got grounded for like a couple of weeks. And, I was a couple of weeks in, and I remember Sailor Moon was on Toonami, and they were running these like midnight runs, and it was like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And I do remember this one time I was like, it's been like a couple of weeks, and I knew that my mom was gonna unground me that weekend because my punishment was kind of almost over, and I did better on the next test, so I knew it was coming. And I snuck into the living room to watch Sailor Moon. I did.
And would like turn it like that kept the sound really, and no one heard you. No one woke up.
If my mom did wake up, she did not go in there and stop me.
Aww.
And But what's interesting is the living room was actually right next door. Like it wasn't far from her bedroom. So I was just as quiet as I could
Aw.
possibly be. And I probably shouldn't have done that. I should have just waited and at least recorded it because, we still had VCRs at the time. I probably could have gotten away with just recording it and
Sure.
watching it in the morning because like I said, I knew that time was coming. But kids will be kids sometimes. So
Oh, yeah.
I was not a perfect child. Some people like to think I was in comparison to my brother, but that's another story. But but yes, I was that much of a nerd that I watched it at 3 or 4. I remember it was Saturday, like Friday night going into Saturday morning. I watched it in the living room.
Okay, well, that's at least you didn't have to get up the next day and go to school, so that was okay, right?
Yes. Well, I guess it wouldn't have been okay by technicality because technically my mom didn't officially unground me.
Ah,
And
okay.
but like I said, I knew that I had done better on that next test.
Right.
And improved my grades at that point. So I was like, you know what? It's been a couple of weeks. And I was just a diehard Sailor Moon fan, in the name of the moon, I will punish you. Like I was totally into it. As I'm sure some other fans were too.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear it.
Would you be kind enough to maybe do a few of Sailor Jupiter's catchphrases?
Oh, wow. He's exactly like my old boyfriend. He's dreamy. Jupiter, star, power! In the name of Jupiter, I will punish you! Thunderclap! Zap! Jupiter! Thunder! Dragon!
Sparkly, wide, pressure. Like
You did it better than I did, Ginger.
I'm not perfect, but I try.
That's one of my absolute favorites.
I know, like some people will paint Jupes as like a tomboy, but for me, like I think there was some genuine like femininity to the character too. Like, she loved pink roses and she loved
Yes.
Hook. And there are a lot of like good talents that Sailor Jupiter had, just the character that I feel like was kind of overlooked. So we know that the Deep Dub was the first go for English voice actors who got into Sailor Moon. And Sailor Moon is very iconic because, as we mentioned, as we talked about, that was the first time that it was like a female-centric based story. So let's talk a little bit like about Viz Media, because we know that we had another VA more recently who did the role of Sailor Jupiter as well. If you ever had an opportunity to actually do a panel with one of the other VAs who voiced Sailor Jupiter, would you have that opportunity? And this is
Amanda Miller.
Yes.
The great Amanda Miller. I adore Amanda Miller. She's fabulous. Fabulous. We did actually appear at a number of Comic-Cons together, and we were in a panel together, the two of us, side by side. It was fantastic. She knew more about the series. She knows more about the series than probably anyone on the planet. She just knows everything, and I know very little because I just don't. Because when we were recording it, the manga was all in Japanese, and it wasn't available. It was just like we were kind of out in the wilderness. What is this about again? So she knows everything because she was so involved in the series growing up. And she wrote a wonderful, wonderful piece about having, longing or admiring the character when she was little, and then every once in a while thinking, wouldn't it be great if when I'm older, if they ever do it again, if I could use that voice and play that character. And then it came true. I mean, what a thing! Because it's the stuff that gets embedded in your psyche when you're younger just is so important. It's so vital and tender, and it's lodged in. And if ever so many years later, and in her case it wasn't that many years later, that she gets to play the part was really, really something for her. And I heard I think this was again at that at the LA Comic-Con that I heard some of her scenes, or maybe it was at another Comic-Con, and I thought, oh wow, she's good, she's really good. And then someone says, don't you find she sounds a little bit like you? And I thought, a little bit, but it's completely different. It's completely different. And I can't even describe how it's different, but she put her own mark on it. She really, really did. And that is hard to do.
So some fans, including myself, we actually believe that the deep dub in its own right is actually the Canada dub. Because, a lot of the voice actors actually came from Canada, and the Viz Media dub is kind of like the American dub. And
okay,
it was kind of like, the deep dub was like, it was kind of passed off as the American dub because it was shown primarily both in the United States and in Canada because it was dubbed in English. But honestly, like, if it wasn't for the hard work that you guys put in, we probably would have never fell in love with the series. So I think that you and the team and everyone else who actually had an opportunity to voice those characters, you guys should really be congratulating yourselves if you're not already. And I'm just honored and privileged to be one of the few and the proud that actually get to interview you, like here in this room today.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's so sweet of you, Ginger. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. And I sincerely mean that from my heart. I don't know if you can see it.
I see.
So
this is my version. It's the easy version.
I don't know if I do it. Like, I've never known if I've ever.
Oh, I like yours. I like all the other fingers. It's more creative.
Yeah, I think that everybody has their own version. But my point that I'm driving to what I'm saying is I kind of feel, it's my personal opinion that the Canada dub, which is, I think that's right, Clover Wave and Deep, when you think about it, that is rightfully, you guys had your own dub. It's not completed. So if you had an opportunity to go back and voice Jupiter, would you do it?
Oh, in a heartbeat. I was just waiting and waiting. We were all waiting. When we finished, the season 4 was done, and and they said, oh, okay, we've got a whole other series of films, or they were very, very non-specific. But they said whatever it is will amount to an entire season's worth. We're going to call it season 5. It's going to take a little while because we have to, write everything and translate it. And so 4 months went by, 5 months went by, 6 months went by, 7 months went. So around the 7-month mark, I actually called my agent and I said, have you heard anything from the Sailor Moon people? Because we're supposed to do, we should have started quite a while ago. And she said, nope, nothing. And then we just found out one day, I think somebody actually phoned me and told me, not my agent. They're not going to do that last season. It's just too complicated. And too complicated? And they said, that's all I know. So nobody knew anything. And still, I'm sure, I don't know that anybody does know what the real reason was, why it didn't continue. But I would, if they came back and, yeah, absolutely. It would just be such an honor to do that, to finish it off logically. So one thing that I just want to point out, because I read it so often on forums, is that people, one of the things they have against the Deke and Clover Way series was the fact that so much of it, or well, a good portion of it, was edited out, and that the themes that were presented were sometimes really, really whitewashed and changed and sanitized, I guess you would say. And that is true. And it's worth being upset about, I suppose, unless you realize that in the day there were no streaming channels whatsoever. You had to either, and you didn't go and buy a DVD or a cassette unless the show had already been on the air. And so in order to make those sales, the show had to appear on network television. And let me tell you, they were strict as could be. If something came in from, like, so strict, if something came in, a project from another country, let's say that showed a child in the scene riding a bicycle without a helmet, it would get sent back. They'd say, you have to cut this scene to the producer. What do you mean we have to cut this? We've done all the voices, we've mixed it, it's ready to go. No, we cannot show that child riding a bicycle without a helmet. So you better figure out how to fix it. Characters changed. They changed gender. The writing changed a lot. But I can guarantee you that if we were recording that today and we were able to stream it where there were no restrictions, content restrictions, we would just translate as best we could, keeping solidly to the original dialogue and the original plot lines, and it would have been so much easier.
I believe that there is power in the fans, and like I said, total props to the Viz Media team who dubbed the series from beginning to the end, and then they actually took on an entirely new series that was created with CGI and like this 3D thing. It's just my personal belief that you guys kind of missed out on that opportunity because of and there were a lot of strict things that the network put on all these shows, and that's what a lot of people fail to realize sometimes, is that it wasn't them, it was the network. But I think there should be some type of petition or something, if Deke or even Clover Wave had the opportunity to dub the series in its entirety, call back the original VAs. They're the ones who made it so great to begin with, and reading all those lines with the colors and not really knowing the character other than what that was a part of it too. Some people say, oh well, I can't really tell you about this episode because it was so many episodes we were dubbing all at once. It seemed like we were always in a rush, but now, coming back even just like years later, I think I think Canada should get a right to finish their dub. I really do. We want season 5, and I think it would be interesting to see the new series. And a lot of fans were even disappointed that Terry herself was not called back to even voice, Sailor Cosmos. And, that would have been like a perfect ending, or not even just Terry. They could have called Linda Ballantyne. They could have called Tracy. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to Tracy. I hope I get an opportunity to talk to her. I'm just saying, somebody, if you know her, please make that happen. But any one of them, would have been perfect for Sailor Cosmos. But sometimes it may just have to do with maybe they were working on another project and they were called back, or maybe Viz Media wasn't able to get a hold of those VAs for whatever the reason was. I know there's a lot that goes into that behind the scenes too. So I think, we should start a petition and, Canada, if there's a company out there that's able to pick it up, if it's not Deke or Cloverwave, they should be able to finish their dub because rightfully the Deke dub was yours. You guys should be able to finish it. I really believe that.
Well, that's so sweet, and of course I know every single person involved would say yes, but the rights holder has to be willing to let go of it. Yeah, so that's just something that would have to be investigated to see if that would be allowable. Why not petition away? It would be so great to do that. Oh my God, I would love it. Do that last season again.
Oh yeah, if we got like a last season, like I don't know if this is possible, but I personally would love to see all of the VAs come back, who work for the Deke dub and Cloverwave, like in some way, even if it's not like their original part, but maybe something is like a tribute. But we gotta have like our original, English VAs for the 5 main characters. I mean, you guys made, in my mind, anyway, in my eyes, you guys were like the glue that held it all together. You guys made the series. If you guys didn't do it, we wouldn't have the American dub that Viz Media did, right? We wouldn't have that. We really wouldn't. It wouldn't be as popular if it was, So thank you again. Huge tremend, for all of your hard work and everything that you guys did. I am kind of curious though. So now that we are in present day, are there any other projects that you're working on, like that, for fans who might want to continue following you? Like, can you tell us anything?
Well, we have some conventions coming up, some Comic-Cons coming up that are still in the works, so it's best not to talk about them until the ink is signed on the dotted line, that sort of thing. In the interim, for the past 3 years, I've been directing audiobooks for Penguin Random House Canada. We didn't really have an audiobook industry here in Canada. All of our books were sent to the US to be narrated, and that they've decided to rectify that. So we now have an actual audiobook industry. And I started working with Penguin Random House about 3.5 years ago, just at the beginning of the pandemic, and have been doing that almost exclusively since then, which is, it's really good because, for me, because it brings out my bossy side. All of a sudden, like everybody's going, what do you want us to do? Well, you want me to tell you what the schedule is? You want me? It's wonderful to be sort of the captain of the ship. I'm not really the captain. I'm kind of like the sub-captain. There are many producers and people on involved with me before I get to it, but it's a really, really interesting and wonderful career move, and I get to meet all these wonderful Canadian actors and voice actors. I just wanted to say, it's just you have been terrific, and you are such a good listener, and that's the hallmark of a good interviewer. So well done. It's very impressive, Ginger. I mean that. So that I think that listening is probably one of the basic skills of a good actress or actor. And we're all actors. What am I saying? Forget the actress stuff. So you have that, and that's something that a lot of people struggle with. They're thinking all the time about what they're going to say next, or changing the topic, or they're just frankly bored with whatever they're listening to. But you, there's an energy that comes out of you, and it's a listening energy, and that's very, very positive, and it helps the person want to share more because you're so receptive. So well done. I mean that.
Thank you very much. And Positive Power fans, if you guys do want to go check out that Terry Hawks interview, don't forget to do that.
Yes.
She was great too. Susan and her are really, really good friends. And guys, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you guys do want to learn more from Susan, or maybe even like follow her on some projects coming out in the future, don't forget to follow her on her social media platforms, guys. Don't forget to keep up with her. I'm going to put all of those links down below at the end of this video. So if you have not already, go follow her, go ask questions. Guys, these are voice actors of our generation. They are open books. I promise you, you're going to get something meaningful out of it. So guys, unfortunately, it's all the time that we have for the podcast. But as always, guys,
Stay positive.
Jupiter style. Oh, yeah.
Jupe style.